All right, it is 6 o'clock. We're going to call to order the Wildlife Management Advisory Commission meeting for August 17th. It's 6 PM right now. We've got an excused absence for one of our commissioners, and another one is joining us virtually, and we do have a quorum. So with that, we'll move on to Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so there's no one signed up for citizen comment period, so we'll go ahead and skip past number 4. Moving on to business items, 5A, which is a Q&A with Ben Olson, our new, yeah, you're up pretty quick, our new Texas Parks and Wildlife Department biologist, here today to join us, talk about Texas Parks and Wildlife, maybe the new change in I guess, we've got a different biologist than we had last year. And introduce yourself, and then I'm sure we'll have questions.
Yeah, so my name's Ben Olson. I'm the new wildlife biologist, I guess still technically new, for Texas Parks and Wildlife here in Comal and Kendall counties. I started in this position mid-January, so still somewhat fresh to this part of Texas. A little bit about me: I grew up nearby Kansas City, Missouri. Fell in love with our wild animals that we live on the earth with, and wanted to study them for the rest of my life and go have fun with that. So I went to school for my bachelor's degree in wildlife management and conservation at Missouri Western State University. During that time, spent a lot of time working with state and federal agencies, volunteering, working on different projects. And that led me to get a job with the Fish and Wildlife Service right out of graduation. The first time, decided I didn't know as much as I would like to know, decided to go to graduate school, and that led me to Texas A&M Kingsville for my master's in wildlife management. After I graduated there, took a job way up north north of Green Bay, Wisconsin, as a chronic wasting disease biologist for the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources. Worked there for several years, and decided that the heat in Texas was better than the cold in Wisconsin. Decided to come back down to Texas. So that's kind of how I got here. So
Thanks, Ben. We really appreciate you being here. Appreciate you taking the time after hours to come out and talk to us a little bit. I don't know how much you've been privy to kind of I'm sure you've been updated on kind of our status on what we've done in years past around trapping and that type of thing, and maybe some of our deer management practices up to this point. I guess to bring you, are you familiar with our situation?
yes, yep.
Okay. So, I guess from we're going to be talking about doing some deer counts here in the latter half of this agenda, but can you help us question, do you see a situation where you could help us with deer counts this fall? I don't know what your schedule looks like. We don't know what you have going on, so that's kind of my first question. Is there availability for you to help?
Absolutely. Obviously, this year everything's a little wild with trying to keep everybody safe with COVID-19. But yeah, absolutely. I'm willing to help out with anything I can with you guys. So,
okay. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
With that, I'll turn it over to the other commissioners and see if y'all have any questions for the new biologist.
No, sir, I don't have any. Thank you.
I just appreciate you being here to provide the guidance to our council. you were on the wrong side of the river. I'm on the other side of Kansas. So I was hoping to hear that you went to KU, but that's all right. So anyway, just wanted to say thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
Quick question on chronic wasting disease. Do you have an update for Texas? Interested to hear that you had that in your background.
I don't have anything prepared, but there's still there are several locations in the state of Texas that have detected positives. There's been a couple. The most recent wild positive in the state of Texas was over in Valverde County, nearby Del Rio, Texas.
Okay.
Then there was early this spring, late winter, there was another positive detected in a captive facility over in Kimball County. But other than that, that's the closest locations to here. As I understand, there's only been a couple of positives in that Del Rio area that have been detected with, I obviously don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but a
Right.
pretty good number of samples. I guess going into that this year, I'm planning on sampling the counties, Comal and Kendall counties, as much as possible to just keep a finger on what's out there and hopefully never detect anything. But we're going to be sampling for good measure.
Thank you.
Paul, you got any questions?
No, I just wanted to say I appreciate you being there and look forward to working with you on the deer count future.
Absolutely. Thank you. I'm looking forward to working with everyone.
So from a deer count perspective and kind of COVID, we are a little behind the ball on our deer counts. Usually we're, I guess, probably middle through or almost done with our deer counts. So we're a little bit behind, which is, I think from a counting perspective is not that big of a deal. You're still going to be, the reason we do it early, and you can tell me if I'm off base here, but I think the reason we do this is because to identify fawns versus does versus bucks, right? It's
Yep.
with emerging antlers, it's pretty easy to understand what a buck is, pretty easy to understand what a doe is, and even today, you're still going to be able to tell what a fawn is. Is that in your mind
Yeah.
correct?
So the main survey period is really going to be from August through September through about mid-October is about when the fawns are going to start losing their spots, and that's the key. The key thing is trying to get in before fawns they've lost their spots, and you kind of just can't quite tell if it's adult doe or this year's fawn. So for that standpoint, you've got plenty of time still to get the counts in. So
Great. That's what I thought. I just wanted to confirm, and I know that again we've been a little bit further along with our counts by this point, but our last meeting was canceled. You don't know that, but generally speaking, our meeting was canceled this last time just due to an uptick in COVID, and I think everyone just wanted to be cautious. So we're a little bit behind, but yeah. So
yeah,
I
there's
think
still plenty of time.
hopefully with your guidance and help, we'll be able to kind of complete this. This is one of the commission's tasks is to do this yearly, right? So this isn't just a thing that is optional necessarily for us to do or something we decide on. This is a part of the charter of our commission, right, is to perform these counts. So we've done it, I think, every year for the past, since I've been on the commission, it's been, 2 years or 3 years, Nancy? I can't. The 2 and 3 years is what's confusing me. 3. Okay, 3. And then we've done some counts before that. I know there's a gap in there, maybe 1 year, but
I've got data
Maybe-
from 2014, a gap in 15, and then
Yeah.
everything forward since then. So
okay. So there you go. He knows more than I do. So, yeah, I wanted to kind of stress that, right? This isn't necessarily something that we vote on. This isn't necessarily something we do, but yeah, it's part of the charter that it's mandated by our our commission's existence. So, I guess from normally what we do is we submit those counts to you and you produce a total estimated population, not this is by no means an exact figure or a true number for our population, but is an estimated total population of our deer here within the Garden Ridge city limits. So I assume you'll be willing to do that again, no problems with that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yep. There really shouldn't be any changes from the former Craig Hensley, who was in this position prior to myself, and then, me getting in this position. The only difference is I'm here instead of him.
Yeah.
So,
And he did a great presentation for us last year around this. Time willing, we'd love to have you come in. If it doesn't work out, I'm sure we can articulate the numbers in a way that makes sense to the community. But, if you've got time or you've got the ability to do it, we would love to ask now if you could make a presentation. I think Craig came in and did a nice PowerPoint presentation, explained some things, took Q&A from citizens, and I think really articulated the point well around, what the estimated population was, why we were doing what we were doing, or why we were recommending what we were recommending. Let me back up. Why he was recommending or saying that we may be overpopulated per some, some other numbers that have been thrown around as far as acres or deer per acre. So, yeah, but yeah, we appreciate you coming. Any final parting questions?
I just have one more.
Okay.
And if this is not within the, what you're going to be providing for us, we're going to be talking about oak wilt, and with your background, will that also be something that you'll be providing guidance on, or is that more through city council updates? Is that ours?
that's not something I've spent a whole lot of time with in the past.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
but I am willing to help out anyway. So,
Okay.
I have a quick one. We publish a newsletter every month for the citizens of Garden Ridge. Do you have anything in writing which might help us explain the necessity for counting the deer and thinning the herd?
I don't at this moment, but we could certainly put something together that would be helpful.
When is
I
the
would
deadline for
appreciate
that?
it.
Yesterday.
Did we already miss the deadline for that?
It's probably yesterday.
Yeah.
I can definitely work something in, honestly, until Friday, if you guys need the week.
Wow, that's a,
I will be in training, so there's a little leeway in this month's grapevine.
well, Ben, maybe.
Welcome to our world, Ben.
Sorry, go ahead, Paul. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Ben, maybe I can get your phone number and give you a call tomorrow?
Yeah, I can get that to you.
Okay. Kat can take care of that. Thank you.
Yes, I will
Yep.
get his contact information for you, Commissioner Sullivan.
I do have a handful of business cards I can hand out to those that would like them. So,
Thank you.
Great. Okay. Yeah, your help is appreciated, as always, and Texas Parks and Wildlife's, role in this, there is a role here, right? So from a, being thorough perspective, right, we still have to, this is run through Texas Parks and Wildlife. We get a permit to be able to do this trapping if we so in fact determine that's what we want to do or recommend to city council and they approve it. This is something that's run through the state and something that we, is regulated, right? So, without their approval and without their buy-in, this wouldn't be possible. So, Ben, thank you for coming out. Appreciate your again, your time after hours, and looking forward to working with you and partnering with you as we move along here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always happy to help. So I'll
Awesome.
hang out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to 5B, which is approvals for minutes of June 15th, 2020.
So moved.
You can't vote. You're not, we don't let virtual people, can you vote?
I move that we
There we go.
accept the minutes as they were presented and sent out to the commissioners.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes. We'll move on to 5C, discuss wildlife reports, updates, which is basically wildlife incidents within the city of Garden Ridge. Any comments, questions about that?
Seems we have an upswing in sick raccoons.
Just one, though.
3, the previous month.
Oh, okay, got you, 3.
Yeah, there's
Sorry.
a total of 4. One in June, and looks like 3 in July.
Were there any details given out about that from the officers, rabies or?
I don't think they do, they
Okay.
wouldn't do a rabies test.
Okay.
What I think is interesting is the pigs that were trapped in Trophy Oaks. So that's a nice proactive step from the city to be able to, I assume the traps, from my understanding, it's there consistently.
Yes.
And, as a nice proactive measure, at least we were able to take 2 out of the population that may affect that community, or that subdivision, excuse me. So I think that's good news.
And I do know that the one in George Ranch is up and it's not being baited right now because we haven't had a problem. Matter of fact, the drainage area it's in, we've just done some work on that containment facility to where it'll drain better, because last year there was right at the pavement where it went off the concrete, there was a little wallow hole for them to get a lot of water caught. And then we've tried to get it to where it'll drain away and stay dry, so they won't have a place to form their little holes and root around and enjoy the lush vegetation within the community.
Nancy, the only question I've got is I guess June saw that's like a number we normally see with fall rut numbers where we pick up that many deer. 25 deer is quite a few. Anecdotally, was there anything that stood out there for a reason why?
I'm not aware of anything.
Okay. It's just a
Yeah,
significantly higher than what we've had
yes.
in all of 2020, so, okay.
There were probably more people on the roads in June. People were going back to work, so they were not paying attention, neither were the deer. They didn't put out their hands and stop traffic, and then so they could cross. So I think a lot of that had to do with traffic patterns. And I think traffic has slowed down, or we've got our citizens there paying attention. So I know on Shanetal Road by the low water crossing in that area, from my house to that area there, people slow down when early morning and later in the evening because they know the deer will cross there. So they are paying attention to where the deer are crossing the road.
I'm wondering if also the construction over on 2252 might be moving some of them. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to
And
tell where I guess they're picking.
I asked Eric today about that deer count, and he said that it was a lot of fawns.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. That's a great answer
Okay.
to the riddle, so that makes more sense. Okay. Anything else on wildlife or wildlife incidents? C1. Any other discussion?
No.
Okay. C2 Oakwood within the city of Garden Ridge. There is a map here within your packet that kind of outlines what looks like a proposed trench, and any discussion on that? Nancy, Nancy wants to discuss.
But now, we have discovered that that has spread, and the red line is the proposed trenching. The red line is the proposed trench to abate this latest oak wilt outbreak. There's, including the city, there are four properties that are involved. We are working with Texas A&M Forestry Service, Mr. Robert Erickson, not Erickson, I am so sorry, Edmondson. So this is the proposed trenching. We are getting estimates at this time for the trenching. We do have an oak wilt abatement program where we will share with costs that the residents have in trenching. And we also have qualified and been approved for a grant with the state to help with those costs.
Do you know the diameters of the trench?
The trenches will be 48 inches deep. The companies that we are talking to, this is what they specialize in, is the trenching for oak wilt abatement. They will come in with a huge rock saw and dig that trench. We are going to have to trench across Sumac Cove, the roadway. Approximately, I believe it's 100 feet. Utilities have been located so that when you get to the utility, you have to hand dig that. And that will end up being about a 4x4 pit that will have to be done at those utility locations. And that's generally what drives the cost up in the trenching, is the going around the utilities.
What's the, so if you have, so there's 3 infected trees currently, 1 on Paul Davis and then 2 on other.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's 4 properties involved, are 4 property owners involved? Or is it just who's affected on their property?
What do you mean, who's affected on?
So you're trenching past, it looks like you're past one, like you have one property owner who doesn't have an infected tree.
That property has a lot of oak trees in it. She's going to have it trenched. I mean, not trenched, she's going to have all her trees treated. Sometimes the trench line will get pushed out a little bit further because of infrastructure in place, maybe the residents, fences, maybe septic systems. Sometimes you have to go around some of that infrastructure, and that can push the lines over. And I believe that may have been part of the situation on that property.
Okay. Any other questions?
Since it's being trenched at Paul Davis Park, is there some sort of notification for citizens who walk by and start wondering why it's being dug up?
It will definitely be barricaded off.
Okay. I remember last time, and it's not because of trenching, but when we mulched all the area, people who are walking, and there's more people walking around, I feel like there's gonna be more and more questions. So is there any sort of,
We will put up some notification about, please don't enter this area. We'll try to make it as safe as we possibly can.
okay. I don't think it's a safety issue. I think it's just people walking by thinking we're digging up the park again.
Oh, no. I understand what you're saying, and I will pass that on to Public Works, so we'll
And
make sure.
is there a scenario that plays out here where you just cut the trees down? I know that's not what they want to do, but is that a remediation step, or is that not remediation?
Oak wilt runs through the root system,
Yep.
so the purpose is to trench to cut that root system where it will not flow into so it will not continue moving. We have had to, and we've seen property owners have to remove trees
Okay.
in the past.
Okay. But that's not a remediation step that can be taken without, that doesn't avoid trenching.
No.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Paul, you got anything? He's muted. Okay, well, he's muting himself. He's got nothing to say. Perfect. Great. Okay. All right, moving on. C3, Wildlife Management Advisory Commission activity and projects. Update of commissioners' activities. Anybody have an update? I know we don't have a lot going on, COVID, but
I know
Not that
we
I'm
had
aware.
talked about the wildflower area being renamed, and we said we needed to put it on an agenda item, but I didn't see it.
Yes, you guys had discussed that at your last meeting. I do apologize, I did not put it on this agenda,
Oh, no worries.
but I can make sure that it is on the agenda for next month.
Super, yeah. Thanks, Kat.
You're so welcome.
all right. Anything else on activities? I know Denise was working with Texas Parks and Wildlife, and I think that's, her intervention is part of the reason Ben is here tonight, so thank you her for that. She's not here to update, but I think when I spoke to her on the phone, she was, I think, instrumental in getting him here, so thank her for that. Anybody else got anything? No. Okay. All right, 3.2, update regarding city or state wildlife management. I assume that's just a catch-all for things we want to talk about, but I don't think there's anything, future education, training sessions, grapevine articles, we kind of discussed that earlier, but I don't think we have any of those on the books. Okay. All right, meeting updates, reports, items applicable to the Wildlife Management Advisory Commission discussed at July, August city council meetings. Since I was not present, quarantining at home, I'm going to defer to Ms. Wentz. No?
I believe in July, the city council members had said they were, it was discussed about alleviating all of the commission members of not having to attend a required number of city council meetings due to the fact of limited seating, that just the commission heads most of the time will be here. Whoever the chairman is of the committee or of the commission or their vice will be at those meetings. They won't have, all of us don't have to come to city council meetings so many for this calendar year until we get past the COVID. Am I right?
Yes, so they actually waived the requirement in ordinance 210 that says you have to attend 2 regular council meetings per calendar year. They waived that until basically further notice, because we don't know how long this is going to last. That also does apply to the chair and a vice chair. You're not required to come to the meetings. We've offered people to submit written reports too if they aren't comfortable. So that applies to all commissioners on every commission for now.
Nancy's looking back on her notes too. And we did also accept the resignation of Cynthia Segovia.
Okay.
That was on the agenda.
And nothing about.
Yeah, nothing else is coming to
Nothing about
mind. I
budget?
mean, there's the attendant, no.
Okay,
Well, the budget
Yeah.
was adopted.
right.
Yes, with
Yes.
your,
So an update to the budget for wildlife management, I assume I can say it. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's on, so it's, instead of it being last year, we were at 50, we're this year at 30,000. So FYI for all the commission members, that's where we stand with our budget for fiscal year 2020, 2021.
And you were saying vice chair, did we vote Denise as the vice chair at one of our previous meetings?
I think it's Ken.
It's Ken,
You're right.
yeah.
Vice chair.
Okay, sorry, Ken.
I
That's all
literally
right,
roped
not
him
a
into that
problem.
one.
Okay.
We've missed a meeting in between.
Gotcha. All right. Anything else on that? No. Okay. All right. Feral hog management, discuss status, make a recommendation related to if needed. So I think we talked about it a little bit in the police report. There was a couple hogs trapped in Trophy Oaks. Anybody want to discuss anything around hog management, feral hog management?
We also talked a couple of meetings ago about some automatic gates for the 2 hog traps. And I met with Eric and he picked out what gates he wanted. And we're looking at under $8,000 for gates for both Trophy Oaks and George Ranch. I'll have a complete proposal from the manufacturer for the next meeting. So I'd like that put on the agenda.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Going once, going twice? The only thing I'll add is, while you said Trophy Oaks and George Ranch, I assume if we need to move those traps and utilize those gate systems, that it would be able to, we should be able to do it in any subdivision anywhere within Garden Ridge. So just as a disclaimer or it's not just for those 2 subdivisions necessarily. Granted, that's where they.
No,
stand.
I was just referring to the 2 traps that we have. One is in Trophy Oaks, one is in George Ranch.
Perfect. I was just trying to avoid contention. That's
Right.
all.
No, I understand.
Okay. All right. D2, Deer Management Program. So we talked a little bit earlier about deer counts. Our new biologist, Ben Olson, was nice enough to say that he would be willing to help or assist right along. I'm not sure exactly what that means. I'm sure we'll pin him down soon on what that help actually entails. But getting everybody scheduled on as a part of our commission, these deer counts are kind of required, or they are required. So we need to do them, and ideally we do them before September, probably 10th, before our next commission meeting, where we can have all of our counts finalized, maybe give him enough time to give us an estimated population. If he can come back in next month, great, and give a presentation, but ideally, I think that's what that looks like, but happy to discuss y'all's thoughts.
Having not.
I think-
Oh, sorry, Paul.
I think we need to go back to the way we did it before. 2 people to a car, so that we're not inviting people to join us in a time when we're trying to socially distance.
assume you mean the ride-along deal we
Right.
had last year with some citizens that rode along in some of our deer counts.
Right.
Okay.
Or followed us.
Yeah, so that, we've done this a number of different ways, meaning we've done it with Texas Parks and Wildlife. We've done it just the commission members. And then we've had last year where we had some citizens ride along with us as well. So not that we've taken a different route or used a different methodology, just the fact that we've had some different participants in the vehicle throughout our history here. So from a methodology standpoint, we still take the same route. But I'm trying to clarify some things that just to reduce the contention as we move forward. So there is no prescribed way of how we necessarily do this or who's in the car necessarily. We are, as the commission members, obligated to go get these counts done. Ideally, one a person. We've done 2 a person before, but Craig Hensley said that wasn't necessarily required. So just looking for input from y'all, how you want to do this.
As far as riding with one other person, and this is just personal for myself, we're not riding around with people who aren't in our immediate family, even in cars. So, is it possible to do like a follow, like we're in our own personal cars, being together, and then meet up in a distance way after we do our counts? Is that possible?
I mean, I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if you just, like, one car falls behind the other car. But
The
typically-
reason being for 2 people in a car is one to drive, the other to count
Well,
and to
that-
write it down.
That and you're looking out the left side and the right side of the vehicle where you can
Right.
look at both sides of the road. That's the other reason why you would do that. I'm not saying that it's not logical that you could count both sides. You could look left and you could look right. But traditionally, people are in the same car when they do counts. I'm not saying that there's like this hard and fast requirement that's, mandated. I think, how we've done it normally is just 2 people in a car, one person's driving, other person's writing down counting, meaning that's what that means. And then you're looking left and looking right and counting deer. I don't think anybody's, well, I would say, shouldn't say that, but I don't think anybody's gonna be looking over your shoulder. If there's somebody riding in a car behind, there might be somebody looking behind you or over your shoulder. But if there's 2 cars following one another and one's looking on the right side of the road and one's looking on the left, the only problem is you may be duplicating deer, right? Like, if they're counting and you're counting, you may be duplicating deer. So ideally, right, I'm not telling you can't do something. I'm just saying, ideally, you have one person in the car and you're calling out, well, I see 2 deer over here, and they're saying, okay, I got 2 deer over here, and they're making their tally marks or their whatever to count them. So I think we're instructed to do that. However that looks, just be aware that there may be people following you, right? We're going to likely decide what dates we're going to do this, and there is kind of a set time that we do this, so it's not unfathomable that people would be there watching you count or counting behind you. So, yeah, that's it, because it's happened. So.
Well, yeah, I think I have neighbors who have been in the following of the cars, and I think that's fine. I mean, they're welcome to do that, but it is just as far as the precautions that we have right now with COVID. I understand that we want to have 2 people in a car, but if someone doesn't feel comfortable being in a car with someone else, can we make adjustments to how that's done?
Yeah, traditionally, I just have, like, my wife go with me. I drag her, throw her on top of the truck, and she rides with me in some form or fashion. and make her count. But if you don't have that ability to have somebody there with you, you know, I think there's some way to do this, right? Like, it's not rocket science. You're counting deer. It's one side or the other there, right?
Right,
So-
maybe, I don't know that, my question is, if my husband drove me around, I don't have to have another council member in my car? Okay,
No.
that was where I was going.
Yeah, no,
I thought you
I
had
don't
to
want to
have
ride
two.
with Troy, so I'm not going to ride with him, so.
Okay,
Geez,
I'm just,
Troy, I'll ride with you.
that's a joke, I'm
As long as
kidding.
we wear a mask, I'm okay.
Actually, I don't blame you, but with the issues that have come up in the past, is there any legal statement that we cannot video our deer counts?
Like, I don't know what you mean. You're more than welcome to
Like
video
a
in your own vehicle.
GoPro, literally a GoPro pointing down the street.
But you're not, yeah, that's fine, but
Not using that to count, but
No.
just using that as video evidence as to what we've done.
sure, I just don't know I don't know why you would need to then utilize that in some form or fashion.
Well, not that we need to, just would it be beneficial
You're more
to-
than welcome to film your
Okay.
deer counts all you want. You can put 4 GoPros, every direction, 360 that thing.
Roger.
Okay.
Because I'll do what you're doing. I'll take my wife with me, and she counts one side, I count the other. And we let each other know if one cross from your side, I won't count it. So we only count them one time.
Yeah, and I think with, you know, if this was a different situation, ideally, we'd like to, you know, sure, I'd love to have citizens available or coming on, you know, being a little bit more open and willing to have people ride in the car with you, sure, that would be ideal, but I think the state of affairs that we're in just kind of dictates that we keep it within our own family or who we're comfortable with riding, right?
And
And
if you're
again, these are gonna be, like, we're gonna know the dates, we're gonna know the times. If people have a question about how we're doing it or what we're doing it, you know, it's up to them how they want to proceed, so.
And if Shannon's husband wants to drive, he can also count. Because I slow down and I'm looking on the left-hand side and she does the right-hand side. And if I see a bunch, I slow down and I'll stop and count my side and then she'll count hers. Same thing if she sees a lot, I'll stop and we get our counts straight. I mean, get them right, that, you know, we're actually counting all the deer we see.
I think it was just a misunderstanding on my part. I thought we had to have more than one council member together when we
No.
did the deer counts, because I haven't done it, so I was just,
I think from my perspective, I don't think that that should be the requirement, right? In this particular instance of COVID, right? I'm not going to require that you ride with Troy or vice versa or anything like that. I think it's just this is a best effort at this point, and we need to take it seriously and count correctly, but, you know, there's, I don't think we can dictate that somebody has to ride with somebody.
I agree.
It's always been that people rode with their spouse or somebody. It was never 2 commission members at the same time.
Yeah, I think that was just a nice to have where we had a couple of people just from a Overwatch perspective do that, so.
We did, last year was the first year we've ever had multiple, 2 commissioners on one count together.
And
We
Ben
had-
Ben may be able to, we can figure out what his availability looks like as we determine what our availability looks like, and I'm.
We could potentially use my truck too.
See.
There's a couple of people from the same family, they can sit in the back of my truck where I've got the survey set up, and then I can drive the truck.
Yeah, we can sit in the bed, even if you want us to do that, make you more comfortable.
And the 3 surveys like normal, then I can keep it consistent.
would we have to clear that with the chief?
We didn't last year
No.
because
We could
adults can sit in a bed. Because I think what Mr. Hensley had last year was you sat up above, he had seats, like you would go on a deer ranch and count. You could sit outside and you were actually sitting in seats. So that would, and you're not going that fast, it's just when you have, they've got, I don't think anybody under the age of 13 can ride in a bed loose. They have to be at least a certain age, and we're talking about adults, so no, I don't think we gotta get the chief's approval.
And I've still got that same truck, at least
got
for the
the-
next couple few weeks. At some point, that's going to get changed, and I don't know that I'm going to still have that
Okay.
that bench seat temporarily. So.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, Ben. Any other questions about deer counts before you, oh,
Yeah, Ben, have, most cities, do they typically do the citizen counts? I mean, is there any advantage to hiring people to come do the count? We run into credibility questions every year, no matter what we do. So I don't know that it would make a difference, but what do cities typically do?
Typically, pretty much, in my experience, the same thing you guys are doing. Usually, there's a commission that's got folks going out, or usually biologists will help get them set up on the methodology, and they'll do that same methodology every year. That's typically what's done. I don't know of any cases where a community has hired some agency or company to do the surveys for them. I do know of private landowners that have done that.
okay.
Is it tonight that we are discussing dates?
Ideally, we discuss dates.
Okay, is that now? Because,
That's right now.
okay.
Yeah, that'd be great. So if you've got a calendar, open it. I can open mine real quick. So today's the 17th, is a Monday, just so everyone knows. It's COVID. You could be sitting at home. I don't know. But anyway, 17th is Monday. That gives us roughly 3 weeks to get this done. So between 6 people, we've got roughly 20 plus days. So
I can do it this Thursday,
Thursday, the 20th.
the
Okay.
20th, yeah.
So Mr. Kniper's on the 20th, and we've been, and I'll ask you just because I want to remember correctly here, you want about at least a few days between counts, is that correct, from an accuracy perspective?
In a perfect world, yeah, you'd want at least 5 days, at least, between counts.
So if you're going to be on Thursday, the 13th, 5 days would be the 18th. Can anybody take the 18th?
No.
Thursday's the
Sorry,
20th.
I'm lying to you,
He's
sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I screwed everyone up. Thursday's the 20th. So 5 days would be the 25th. Can anybody do the 25th, a Tuesday?
Yeah, I can go.
I'll take the 25th.
Beat you to it. So then 5 days after that would be the 30th, which is a Sunday.
Let me have it.
Mr. Bippert's gonna do Thursday. Oh, no. We've got dove hunting first, okay? I'm hoping Shannon can take the one after that, first, yeah, the third? No, the fourth. No,
The 4th, is that it?
yeah, the fourth.
I can do the 4th.
Can you do the fourth, Friday the fourth?
Yep.
Okay.
I think that's enough.
And then we've got Denise and myself are left. I can take the
9th?
9th.
Do we know when Lisa, or not Lisa, Denise was going to be back?
I didn't get a good indication when she'd be back, but
Okay.
maybe we can just pencil her in for the 14th? No,
Yeah. Yep.
yeah, the 14th, and see if she can do a count then. I know that doesn't get us in, that may be cutting it pretty close, but we'll just have to see. When is our next commission meeting? 21st. So that actually works. That gets us all the counts in by the 14th and bin the information a week before we may need it. Does that work? Yeah. Well, I mean, it's mandated by, no, it's not necessary to do that many counts, but I think as we've been tasked with doing it as a part of our mandate for the, I don't know how you can have some do it and not others. From a fairness perspective, I don't know.
And since
But I think it gives us a decent, it puts 5 days, yes, it's probably 6, it's probably 2 or 3 more counts than we would need, but I don't think that's negative by any means. And you're gonna throw some of those counts out, right? You're not gonna use, and Ben, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, it's been a while since I've done this, but you're gonna throw some of those counts out as being, you're gonna throw what?
If you do 5, we're probably going to take 2 out, because typically you would do just 3.
They take, and that's what I mean, is you're gonna take out the highs and the lows, you're gonna try to find the middle, right?
If you did just 3, that would be perfect. We don't typically do extra surveys and then cut out extras unless there's something that just happens.
Okay, so do we wanna just do the 3 then? Is that, I don't know, Nancy, is that acceptable from the city's perspective?
That is why we doubled up the commissioners
Yeah.
last year, because we were told that 3 was the number to do, no more, no less type thing. That's the reason that the commissioners were doubled up, so that everybody went. That's not ideal this year.
So do we want to just take the first 3? Is that a problem if some of us do it and others don't for the people who are doing it? I don't want to say like, I'm not doing it, so.
But
therefore
couldn't
you have
we
to do it.
take 2 cars, like, follow each other? Or
Yeah,
no?
I mean,
If Shannon, yes, if Shannon wanted to follow one, say on the set, this
you
for
could,
instance,
yeah, I mean, you could have
on
2
the
cars
20th.
there, but it's still, you're gonna just, what's gonna happen is the problem is you're gonna have potentially 2 sets of numbers, right? You may see a deer that he doesn't, right? And then you're gonna have a conflict. Ideally, you just have one person report the number in to Ben, or obviously we'll send it through the city first, but ideally, you just have one person send it in, because what's gonna end up happening is somebody's gonna see 1 deer more, 2 deer more than that person, whatever, and it's gonna be a point of contention. So that's what I'm just trying to reduce here.
I have no problem not being one of those 3.
Okay.
And just take the first 3.
If we're doing just 3, I make a suggestion that we do it with 3 people who have done them before. And then next year, we can do 3 and double up and teach the new members of the commission how it's done.
Well, I think you 3 it's Ken, Troy, and you, right? So it's all 3 who've done it before, correct?
Yeah,
yes.
Perfect. Okay.
And I'll take my wife with me to help me count, so she'll count off of one side and I'll count the other.
All right,
I'm
so
doing the
let's-
same thing.
Yes.
Troy, was your day the 30th or the 31st?
The 30th.
30th, okay.
And I guess my question to Ben, are you free those 3 days? The 20th, the 25th, and the 30th?
As of right now, yeah.
Okay, good.
And I guess, would you be willing to help? Like, I know that's after hours for you, Ben, so
Yeah.
if you're willing to help, we appreciate it.
Yeah,
Just from a-
absolutely. Just let me.
Just from another, looking over your shoulder oversight perspective, so that we don't, granted, we still had some issues last year around deer counts, but hopefully this is just another, a little bit of oversight, and obviously
Yeah.
a way for us to get to know you too, right?
Yep,
So-
absolutely.
Quick question, if we're gonna ask him to be involved, do we wanna really do a Sunday? He says it's okay, but
I think if we need to move some stuff around a little bit and try to keep the 5 days in between, let's try to do that. Like, give us your schedule. We've got a general time frame of when we'd like to do them. If we need to push one back or one forward that works for people, that's great. Maybe we can just coordinate through Kat, or can we just do that?
I mean, it could be as simple as moving the one that's on Sunday to Monday, and
right.
There you go. Can you do that, Troy?
We'll see.
If you need to fill in, just let us know.
Yeah.
I'm sure one of us can fill in for that.
Weekends work best for me, but at this point in time, I don't see an issue with Monday.
Okay.
The
All right.
31st.
So we've got a prescribed normal time that we start, which is
an hour
an
prior
hour
to
before
sunset.
Sunset.
And what we did last year is we met up here, and then since Barbara and I are gonna ride with him, we just ride in back of the truck, so. We can sit on the bed of the truck and we'll be fine. We'll get on the seats once we hit the subdivisions, because we drive slower there.
Safety first, Ken. I
And
like it.
I will get you gate codes to get into both George Ranch and Trophy Oaks. I will call the management company tomorrow, and I'll get those codes, and I'll give them to you. They'll be, they'll expire on the 1st of September. I'll make it a very specific time frame, or I can make it the first week of September. That way we can give you an extra couple of days if you need it. This way the homeowners associations don't think we're gonna be in there for, you won't have one for 30 days and just can drive around the subdivisions. Because some of them are very particular.
Yep.
And they pay attention to the strange vehicles coming in and out. So I'll make it through the, say, the 7th of September.
Plans for open our water, but not,
Can you mute Paul, please? Can you mute him, Marissa? Thank you. All right. I think we've got our kind of directive. Thank you for those who volunteered. Really appreciate it. If you need help, please reach out as soon as you know whether you can make it or not. I'm sure we can get somebody to fill in. And thank you, Ben, for being there to assist. Any other questions about deer management? Nope. I've got one thing I want to bring up before we end, is potential creative solution to our current problem around deer trapping, right? So there is no, we don't have a great place to trap deer currently today as it stands. Our private citizens are not willing to volunteer for us to be able to utilize their space any longer. So, or some of the people who volunteered before have rescinded that invite. So we are currently without really a place to trap deer. With that said, I assume there's options on the table from I'm asking so I can understand what the limitations are. We say that there isn't a place today. Is that in fact the case? We've used other spaces before from a trapping perspective, right? Like we've used the corner of Bat Cave and Schoenthal Road. Granted, that's very visible, but there are always deer there. If you ever drive there, there's typically deer in and around there, or the drainage area around George Ranch. I'm just trying to think of, is there a place or places that we can reach out to do this, right? I think that's city-owned land right there at the corner of Schoenthal and Bat Cave. But, or am I wrong on that? Where you had the drop net before. So is there anywhere outside the box? Yes, it may be more visible. Yes, it may create, and city council can decide to do this or not do this, right? And the commission can decide whether or not to do this or not. But the point of me bringing this up is there are very few options. Hollywood Park had the same problem years ago when they started this, that they ran out of room, and it had to be, some of their traps were highly visible on some of their main roads, right? So they had drop nets, or they had traps, or whatever you want to call it. They had some form to capture deer, some form of trap that was more visible, right? We've tried to make this, I think, a little bit more comfortable. As it were, it was a hot, contentious item 3 years ago. I think we did our best for 2 years to kind of mitigate that pushback or blowback. We are out of options, meaning I think you have to be more creative when there are lack of options, right? So I'm just wondering from a city perspective, is there anything that we can get creative on that isn't, yes, that may be more visible, but is a potential option for trapping deer?
Yes, we've had problems with private property owners not willing to allow the location of traps on their properties. They do have to grant us permission. The city does not have a lot of locations in which trapping would be conducive. I know we do have one location, and it would be an excellent location, but we cannot get the trucks and trailers back into the property.
There is a way around, like, that to me, like, I've done this, right? Like, I've trapped animals before. Getting a 40-foot gooseneck or a 35-foot gooseneck in some tight places is difficult. I think there is.
The problem
trapper
is
that
we have to cut through people's private property to get to that location.
But there is an easement, no?
The easement is a drainage ditch that you can't drive through. For us to be able to get back to the property to even mow, we have to cut down property owner's driveway and then go through the side of their yard to even get back into that.
So they
Area.
granted access to the city, correct?
I'm
to do
sorry?
that? Have they granted access to the city to be able to?
They are
access
letting
that?
us do that for the mowing purposes.
Is there-
But the current, there are trees that would be in the way that would prevent you from pulling a trailer through there on the private property.
Okay,
So I think that could be a problem.
yeah, I know that we've potentially assessed it. I don't know how much assessment has been done other than, I hear what you're saying. If it's wet, obviously a drainage ditch is a problem to drive. And a ditch, I guess, I assume it's not concrete, I assume it's an earthen
No, it's
type ditch.
earthen, yeah,
So,
it's natural.
that being said, like, if it's wet, understandably, it's not drivable. But if it's not wet, it should be drivable, is that correct or not correct?
The easement is within the drainage ditch.
Yep.
In order to act, and that property is at the end of that drainage area. But
An
in
easement-
order,
An easement usually is big enough for a vehicle to fit down. Like, you don't have an
this
easement-
one is not.
It's not. Okay.
It is not. In order for us to even get mowers into that location, we have to utilize the private property owner's property that abuts that drainage easement to even get access to go back to that property, is what I'm saying there.
Okay. So it'd be a situation, and they have not granted us access
No.
and not willing.
There would be trees in the way to bring a truck and trailer through there
On their property, not
on the property owner's property.
I've dealt with situations like this before where you just put up a fence and you just down the easement and you just run them down the fence.
I think what I need to do is show you that,
Okay.
what I'm talking about.
I understand. It sounds like it's a tight easement.
Yes.
It's probably 4, 5, 7 feet wide that you can't fit a vehicle down, right?
I couldn't tell you right now how wide it is.
And what you typically do is just run a chute it down there with some cattle panel and I'm just saying there's a creative way to solve the problem, rather than saying we can't utilize it. I think it's just putting some T-posts in the ground and running some cattle panel down there as we have the trap up for a little while. I'm not saying that's a solution. That's the end-all be-all answer. I'm just saying there's got to be a way that we could utilize city space to be able to do this. If we want to continue to try to manage our herd, because right now there was no management last year, right?
Right, because we did not have a location.
Right. And I'm just wondering the city's appetite, and it may be a city council question / city question about the appetite for doing this more visibly.
I can only speak for myself, but I think visible traps are still going to be really unpalatable
Yeah.
for most people.
So there is no option then.
Certainly
That's what I-
current.
Sorry,
Lots of
I didn't
feedback
interrupt.
on stuff. I mean, Nancy, as far as private property goes, do you reach out to people? Do people reach out to you? How do we identify private property?
We have reached out to the property owners.
Okay.
If there are private property owners that y'all are aware of that would be interested in, or would allow us to have a trap placed on their property, please let us know.
Is there a way that we could give you a list of properties that you could reach
That
out
would
to?
be perfect.
I can do
Just
that.
please, I mean, if y'all know of some locations, bring them to us. We will reach out to them.
Okay.
But all the ones we have utilized in the past have all backed out.
Okay.
What about empty lots? Have we been able to reach out to the owners of those lots that haven't had anything built?
That could be a possibility.
Okay.
But again, the nets will generally be very, very visible.
Right, but like.
Not nets, but traps.
I mean traps, sorry.
Right, and that, I know that we are trying to make them less visible for the palatability for the city, but a lot of, at least in my neighborhood, the unbuilt lots are heavily wooded, and so we could probably put it a little bit off the road. So if it's possible to contact those property owners.
If y'all want to give me a list, I will be more than happy we will reach out.
We can give you a list of names and addresses. I don't know how likely we're gonna have cell phone numbers, but we can at least start there and then work to figure out their cell phone number or a way to contact them via email or something. But I'm sure y'all got some resources. Yeah, I don't, our options are very limited today. So if this is something that we need to do, which we've determined the last 3 years, this is something we need to do, I think we're gonna have to get a little bit more creative or find alternate places to be able to do this, right? So I want to put it out there so everybody understood kind of the situation that we're in, right? And I understand that from a city perspective and sitting on the city council or being the mayor and having traps out there is not is not good, maybe politically or reputationally. So, yeah, I think we just need to we may need to think, and I'm happy to help. I'll send some names and addresses, and then we can go from there.
The city property that we're talking about, the drainage ditch, if you'd like to run out there and look at it, I'd be willing to go with you to see if it's even a safe option to run the deer through the drainage ditch with the chute like you're talking about.
We have shown that piece of property to Mr. Murphy before.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
he said it was going to be very difficult.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not. Yeah, I'm not saying that that's the end all be all, but that is a potential. I don't know. Maybe we can go look at it and we can just see what's possible. If nothing's possible, then I just don't know what. I know that Cindy had discussed that at a certain point being an option. So, and doing it there would be a little bit more ideal than doing it on private property that may be more visible or may get, those folks may get pressured into not being willing to do it anymore. So, okay.
I just hate to see all the work that we've done to bring up the health of the herd go to waste in just a short matter of time.
Yeah, we've got quite a few. Anecdotally, we have, from where I sit today on Clark Lane Drive, there's quite a few deer. I've got 5 or 6 in my yard every day when I pull up, so it's that just maybe my neighbors feed them too, but that's at least that's my experience day to day. So, all right.
All the deer in my neighborhood are healthier than I've seen in the past 10 years that we've been here. So
Just quickly back on the visibility thing.
Yes.
you know, apart from the political implications, we've had issues with citizen interference in the past too, that I think that we can avoid, if we can avoid that as well.
Well, I think, I mean, you look at some of the other examples of Hollywood Park, and I think Hollywood Park did a little bit better. They were able to, I think they had the majority be on board, but there were some incidents in Lakeway that were, yeah, people were, yeah, it was an unfortunate set of events. And I'm not sure where they stand today on their deer management program. I know they paused it for a year to reassess, but it may be worth seeing because they're kind of in the same situation where a lot of their trapping's got to be more visible just because of the density of housing. So.
I know for George Ranch, you won't get a trap put in any of their detention ponds because the board won't vote forward, and I'm on the board, and I would be in favor, but I'll be voted down. And the only reason there's a hog trap is they've seen the damage hogs can do. They say deer are pretty, they're nice, and they don't do that much damage, so they won't even, there's no appetite from people within our community to even have deer removed from Garden Ridge. They see them as pets, not as animals.
That's interesting. That's interesting that the board wouldn't approve. They would approve hog trapping, but not deer trapping. So that's an interesting juxtaposition. All right. Any other discussions on D2? Okay. Moving on, D3, City of Garden Ridge Wildlife Management Plan. I know we've had that. I believe that's been submitted, approved, all that. We're good there. I don't think we need to make necessarily any adjustments unless anybody wants to bring up an adjustment. Okay. All right, D4, Parks Committee monthly meetings. I don't even know if there's been a monthly meeting.
You know, they haven't been meeting in person, but they've still been very active. They just had a bunch of tree stumps ground down, 200 something.
I think it's a large number.
A large number of tree stumps ground down at Paul Davis Park, and they're still actively working on cleanup around there. And they've got a plan with a scout to have an arbor and some benches put out by the butterfly garden. So, I mean, things are going forward, but they're just not meeting in person. So,
Gotcha. Okay. Anybody have comments about that? All right. 210, we already went over. That's been the attendance of the city council meetings are not 2 a year anymore. That's been postponed. So join virtually, or if you want to join in person, join in person. So any other comments, questions about that? All right. Future agenda items. I know, Paul, you had one that you wanted to add earlier, which was the gates for the hog traps, the automatic gates. You said you were going to bring your proposal. Cattle had that. Shannon had one about renaming the butterfly garden. I think we're going to add that. Any other future agenda items? Okay.
It wasn't the butterfly garden.
I'm sorry, what was it?
Because I think that was the Eagles Pass. I just want to differentiate. It's the wildflower.
I think we're thinking of the same place. I
Same
just think
place?
we're
Okay.
using a different.
Okay.
Yeah. Butterfly garden, wildflower place. That strip of land over there in Paul Davis Park, you know what I'm talking about. All right. Anything else? All right. Citizen comment period. Come on up.
You need it cleaned first?
Please just state your name. You know the routine.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Nope.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Kay Bauer, 8947 Garden Ridge Drive, Garden Ridge, Texas. First of all, I wanted to thank Paul Mr. Kaczynski for David for stepping back up as chair. I assume he missed that meeting or something, but thank you for stepping back up as chair. And secondly, I'd like to applaud Ms. Strick's comment on notifying the citizens. I think that's a great idea. Not just or necessarily for safety, but just to keep them in the loop, because we all want the transparency. We know no matter how hard we try, it doesn't always work. And then lastly, I'd like you to refer you back to your trenching map, because I've brought this to the city's attention on more than one occasion, that the prior trench they did a few years ago, where they actually had the oak wilt, and they did just take that tree out a couple months ago. It's been recommended that that trench be extended all the way down so that it doesn't approach the heritage trees behind Pavilion 1, and that is not as in the plan. So that's within 200 feet of the actual oak wilt, and it's just being ignored, in my opinion. And we do stand to lose. There's no sign yet, but I'm just saying, based on facts and statistics, we could stand to lose those heritage trees behind Pavilion 1 if we don't include that trench. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't think we have anybody else that wants to comment. Nope. Okay.
I move that we adjourn.
You don't even need to move to adjourn. We'll just go ahead and adjourn.
Okay.
It's 7:16. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul, you did great.
Thank you.